Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jake, this is Nadia, this is Buddy, and Sedona is
hiding somewhere.
Hiding from us, but she'll probably show up at some point. Today, we watched Avatar: The Way of Water, actually just right now. We just came back from the theater. So, what did you think of the long-awaited sequel to Avatar: Avatar?
I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that was really hard to watch. Oh, I think this is a lot more intense than the first Avatar.
It is more
intense. It's a lot more graphic.
Well, it feels like there was a lot more emotional intensity as well.
Like, I wanted to, fight some bitch.
Me too. I was ready to fight the sky people. So first up, we're going to be talking no spoilers first, and then we'll get into spoiler section. So if you haven't seen it yet, don't worry. I noticed just coming out of the theater and what I was thinking about was how so much priority is put on the experience of the nature, just long sequences and really beautiful sequences of, hanging out with whales. Really just like a beautiful message so that when the action comes, which it doesn't come until, later on, it's so heavy and it's so filled with emotion and care because this isn't just a CGI world, this is a version of nature and, it's almost part nature documentary in that way. Even more so than the original Avatar, I think, because the original Avatar had kind of the fish out of water element of like, oh, we're exploring this new world. This was more like they've been here for a while, they have a family, it's a different thing. And there's multiple storylines going on, which it made the movie feel like it wasn't that long. There were a lot of moving pieces and different characters and stuff going on. It never felt slow. How did you feel about that?
I agree with everything you said. You didn't rate it yet, though.
Oh, I'd give it like a 9.
Oh, wow. We have the same rating.
8 or 9. I actually think that it is, it's hard, just like recency bias, but I do feel like it has the potential to be better than the first Avatar for sure.
There is individuality with animals that you often don't find in films, right?
Well, and one thing I loved is with the whales, make sure to point out that they're highly intelligent, that they're creative, they're
more intelligent than humans.
Yeah, and yet they still, attack them. And the difference between this and like a typical big budget Marvel action movie or whatever is that you can tell when you watch it, like this wasn't made by a committee of people. This is like clearly someone's perspective and view about nature and about how life should be, unapologetically like hippie. And that is a big part of the movie. But the cherry on top is the fact that it is just a really badass movie still. Great action sequences, great. Like if you don't want to deal with any of that, it still has all of the amazing James Cameron action sequences. It's almost like a mashup of great James Cameron movies, And the ending kind of sneaks up on you because it comes fast and all of a sudden. But
it's so emotional. I cried so much.
And a lot of complex
and I wanted to
scenes.
Cry even more. And it was very complex. And also it was very moving. It really moves you. You feel angry and you feel very motivated. And I think it depicts it in a way that's really hard to watch. Like there were a few scenes where I had to just get up and go get popcorn because I just couldn't watch it. It was just very graphic, and they did such a good job at making it realistic and making it where you're moved and the motivation behind those characters, and you really understand each character's motivation. Well, there are several people that they brought back from the first film.
I was surprised first off about that. I was like, are we really doing this?
But
then I was like, okay, because they made it interesting.
They did make it interesting. I do want to say a little bit more about that and say who they brought back.
Well, we'll do that
in the spoiler section. But I liked it and I didn't because I felt like it was a little repeat of the first film. The whole question of the film is your tribe, where you fit in, and where you are supposed to fit in.
Mm-hmm. An evolution on what the first movie was. We have similar themes, but we're dealing with a family and the stakes are higher just because you have kids involved, and that makes things scarier, but also there's different stories going on. They really go into the family dynamics in a way that was really nice. None of it is super unusual. I'm not saying any of this is narratively experimental or strange or reinventing the wheel. These are tropes that they're, dealing with, older brother, younger brother rivalry, these are tropes that are familiar, but it's that's what movies are good at. It doesn't have to be an 8-hour long miniseries analyzing analyzing the nuances of, human relations. Like it's shorthand, but that's what makes these types of movies work. And I think that just saying it's cliche is not always the best thing to do. I mean, I think it's only a cliche if it doesn't work.
I really want to get into spoiler section.
Right.
Obviously, if you can't tell by this review, in the non-spoiler section, that we highly recommend it. So if you haven't seen the film,
we saw it in 3D, and I actually
did see it in 3D,
I actually really liked the 3D, and I usually hate seeing movies in 3D, but I liked it.
I liked it too.
It didn't bother me, and I didn't barely even noticed it.
All right, we're gonna move on to spoiler section now. The younger brother ends up getting tricked, go out in the middle of nowhere.
So you're talking about the scene where one of Jake's kids is tricked into going out into the ocean.
Yeah, the younger brother.
Yeah, and that bond that he has with the whale that was like my favorite relationship in the movie.
Well, mine too.
I mean, that was really well built because, there's a lot of the kids, but he's like the second oldest son, and he's like sort of a shithead and is like very rash and brash and doesn't listen to people. And you kind of don't really like him that much until he finds this bond with this other whale that's an outcast. It's just kind of like a really sweet storyline. I don't know. It was very
he really bonds
innocent
with the whale and calls the whale his brother. And at the end of the movie, he ends up helping his dad. His dad was the protector of the whole film until the very end when the dad gets trapped in the ocean. The younger son is like walking him through, like, hey, just take a little deep breath. This is how it goes. And then,
well, there's all set up and payoff. I mean, the payoff is,
and the
really
whale
great.
also helps.
The whale help. I mean, but these are things that's like, and like I knew that was being set up with like the breathing things on the back, because I knew there was going to be a Titanic-esque ending in it, because I read that in a review or whatever. I knew that was going to happen, and they had the breathing things they put on their back. I'm like, okay, this will come in handy at the end of the movie. It'll be good payback, and it did, and that's great. And it's like, it's not bad because I could see it coming. It works. That's just how movies are. I love, like, this movie has some of the best of Avatar's like tree hugging message. Thing I love about Avatar was like the being in awe of nature, even though it's all artificial and manufactured, but it's so much detail and clearly so much love taken from real nature into creating these things, and so much attention to detail that is just mind-blowing and beautiful to look at. The fact that the movie pauses and lets you breathe and take it all in is really special. You don't get that from big blockbusters anymore, just to experience something. But the fact that you have all of that beauty and then some of the best action set pieces that tops anything that like Marvel's putting out these days. I was thinking of Wakanda Forever and how they have like an action scene at the end too on a ship. This blows it out of water. Not just in terms of like technically the special effects, but like the creativity of the action,
storyline, the emotion,
the stakes, but just like the beat by beat moments of like action hit, like everything. It was just choreographed so well, and you have these interesting technological devices and the mixture of like, there's one shot in particular that struck me because like obviously you're watching like digital stuff, but then there's a scene where these humans are in a submarine and like an arrow pierces it underwater and then water rushes in. And you see it fill up with water, and they're like, oh yeah, like this is real, but it looks the same as everything else, and it kind of fucks with your brain a little bit because like, I know this shot is real actors in water, but I can't tell it apart from these
so good
people in water. So like, that goes without saying that it's like technologically it's amazing and really incredible to look at. I mean, that the whole sinking of the ship, I mean, that was just one giant set piece that had all these different beats that were just like fantastically put across with like all these different story arcs. And one of the most interesting arcs, I thought, so you have, of course, like Jake's whole family, and they have different side plots going on. You have the son with the whale. You have Sigourney Weaver as the, teenage daughter who's like having these religious experiences, Paul from Dune kind of thing, and the savior. I think she'll end up being that way somehow. One story I thought was super interesting was Spider, the boy who is human, but he hangs out with them. And he's actually the son of the general guy, the colonel, who has been reborn as
Avatar.
As Navi.
He's not reborn. What they did is they took his memories and put it in Avatar.
So there's almost a lot of exposition going on at the beginning of the movie to explain what's going on. And the start feels almost like it's trying to take off, but once it gets in the air, it's great. And I wasn't that thrilled. Like, I didn't like that character from the first movie because he's just like unambiguously evil. But the fact that he comes back and now he's embodying, like his enemy. The fact that they had this evil monster return and actually I got a glimpse of his humanity slightly. It's not a lot, but you start to see a little bit.
Because of Spider.
Because of his son, which isn't technically his son, but it's like, it is his son, Spider, of course, is loyal to the Na'vi, like through and through, but he's taken by them early in the movie and kind of goes along with them for a while because he has to. Of course, it builds up to like the climactic moments of the movie is when Jake's oldest son dies. Neytiri is, of course, furious. It's kind of odd because all throughout the movie, you're dealing with like these issues of like who belongs, who was the more alien. You have the sea people who look at Jake's family as like you have alien blood in you, and some of them are hostile to that. And then you have all the way on the other side where Spider is like fully human, but he lives with the Na'vi and is like part of their family. But he's also not totally part of their family. Like, it's a tricky thing because then when it's like who belongs to who, and like you said, like it's all about like what tribe are you in? Who's creating your tribe? What does it mean to be a family? That in those moments when Neytiri is like grieving the loss of her son, the colonel has her daughter, at knife point. Then she grabs Spider, his son, and is like, I'll slit his throat. And in that moment, you fully believe she will.
I think she would.
She would have.
That's the thing that was a little hard because in the beginning of the film, they call Spider like a stray cat. They compare him to, which is kind of sad because he really is loyal to them. He's clearly scared of her, Neytiri, because he's seen like the video of her killing like Colonel in the first film, and he sees how rageful. And he also like Neytiri has like in the film multiple times stated like he doesn't belong here. He belongs with his own kind, which I think is a little hypocritical because like her husband is not like he started out as human. She fell in love with him as a human, in an avatar body, but nonetheless he's human. Kind of felt a little hypocritical, and then you can see like Spider doesn't feel like he fully belongs. I will say one thing that I didn't like is that Spider at the end of the film saves his dad, Colonel. Like,
I don't like it, but I see why it happened, and I think it was earned, and it made sense.
I mean, he didn't like betray like others because he
still returned. It's funny at the end of the movie though when he like hugs them. I noticed he doesn't interact with Neytiri at all.
No, they kind of. This is probably going to be explored in this other film.
Well, of course, in the way that they're setting it up, you clearly see like this movie feels full and complete, but there are themes mostly, not like this character will return in this movie. It's like they're setting up these themes that you could see like, oh, this could be really interesting down the line. You said with him seeing the video of Neytiri killing his dad, experience with her, and the fact that he saved his dad, and then his dad calls him son, and in that moment you're like, is he gonna go with him? But then he like hisses and leaves, which is good. I think that would have been forced and wouldn't have been right if he ended up going with the colonel at the end. Like,
no. And I think there is a little bit of a tension or question mark if he will turn because you can tell that he does like spending time with his father, and kind of getting to know his dad because he feels lost. He's an orphan. What I will say I didn't like is the part right when Jake is being confronted at the very last act by the colonel. Colonel has his son and daughter hostage. He like offers himself as a sacrifice basically, but then he tells the leader of that tribe, the water tribe that they're part of, this is about me. Almost like seems naive in that sense that he thinks that if he hands himself over, they kill him, that it like will stop. And it's like, no, it's not about you. It's about greed. After they kill you, they're still going to kill everyone else. They're just going to get you out of the way.
No, but I get it from his perspective. He's like, this tribe is suffering because I walked over here. Like they are specifically targeting me.
Yeah, right now. But they were killing the whale like creatures who are, after all, part of that tribe because they bond. They're like spirit brothers and sister of that tribe way before they knew that Jake had gotten there.
That was in a different region, though. So the ones in their area wasn't affected by that until.
But I think the water tribe.
And they specifically didn't target them. Like they said in the movie, like, we don't hunt these whales because we know that if we do, they're going to attack us. So we hunt the whales, in a different area.
I get that, but like they still have to meet quota, and you can see the whales were migrating.
Yeah.
And going from one another. So either way, like I think for me, like I understand what you're saying, but because the whales migrate and come back, like it could be the same whales, or I interpret it as the same whales when they were migrating somewhere else. Because the water tribe, even if they have a bunch of different villages, they all seem to be like have the same like tribe owner, because that tribe owner has told the other people in the tribe, like, hey, don't tell them, protect Jake and his family and such things. They all listen to him, just like the forest. I really hope that Colonel finds some redemption by sacrificing his life.
You think he can be redeemed?
I think there's a little bit of like hope that you can see that his son sparked in him. I really, if there is no redemption for him, I really hope he dies bloody, because my God.
I want to murder him. They should put me in the next movie so I can kill him.
Well, and then just like so many, like I'm so happy like when the whale-like creature, that one that was an outcast, literally outsmarted those fuckers, and then trapped them, and just the arrogance that these guys had.
Well, that's one thing I love about these movies, is that while they show like the darkness and like how evil the humans can be, and like really tugs at your heartstrings with how sad it can be, there's still that like redemptive moment of like fighting back. And there are some great kills in that whole sequence when the whale flops onto the ship and is just smashing everybody, and like you just feel like James Cameron is like relishing every shot where human beings are like being like knocked into the water.
Oh, so was I. Like, I was afraid for a second that the whale was going to die. But
yeah, no, me too.
He ended up making it, which was awesome.
But like one of my favorite parts is when they're trying to harpoon the whale with the boat, and then the whale is so smart that he ends up grabbing the line and is like throwing them around onto the rocks, and then brings the cord around and like chops the ship in half, and the guy's arm
just flips off. I was like, yes. Make them, burn them alive. Like, I was like, they are so cruel. Like, and that's the awesome thing about this film, is that it really works you up to where you're like, really, like, it's like someone inflicted pain on my dogs, Like, I am coming after you and your whole fucking family. Like, it's really moving. I also wanted to talk about how the whole imperialism, the after effect, how the forest scenes in the beginning of the film had just completely changed the vibe of how it looked like. It didn't even look like as beautiful as it used to anymore. Like, it was still pretty, but you could see it's less immersed in nature now. It's become more of a campground. Like, nature is being like completely like depleted in those areas where these like sky people are coming in.
Well, and it's interesting because they say it out loud, like the motivation is clearly different. The first movie, they're just extracting minerals. This one, it's like Earth is dying. We're recolonizing the planet, and it's very much like United States Manifest Destiny, like parallel of like we're taking all the land. The future movies are going to be very interesting, like clearly. But something about the movies is like they portray everything related to like technology and the military as drab and ugly. And even like though the tech is like cool or whatever, but the designs, they're super blocky and just like utilitarian, and like it feels like when you're in those scenes, like get me out of here, It doesn't like glorify it in a certain way. Very anti-military in its tone, in the fact that the bad guy in like his scene, he says like, we're Marines, Semper Fi, and it's like in his evil villainous tone, and it's like, I wonder what James Cameron thinks of the military, It's like,
well, and then also like it's like, we can't be killed even if you kill us. Like, well, this is just paraphrasing, but like the colonel was like, even when you kill us, we'll rise up in hell.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Yeah.
thought that was very fitting. I really like the fact that it doesn't try to make, like, it really shows the imperialism works at its best, which is displacement of people. I think a lot of times in movies, you get this military kind of idea that, like, imperialism is supposed to be kind of like more diplomacy. And it's like people shaking hands. And it's like, sure, you can take our land, and in return, I'll show you how to cook and get our grains. Like, it shows it very, like, more Disney kind of thing. And then it's like, no, that's not what it is. No one wants to be displaced. No one wants, like, who would agree to, like, getting their land displaced? It's used by fear tactics, a depletion of resources. And you can see how that concept is being played in this film. You know, and this is a great example of showing instead of just telling.
It wears its heart on its sleeve, but it's also just showing you, like you said, what's going on. It's not trying to be like imperialism bad, like this is a metaphor. You know, it's like a very earnest movie about like what feels like a real people. Always, just serving the story.
Exactly, it's always serving the story, and honestly, I really enjoyed it so much, and I can't wait for the next film. Films, yeah. A year after.
You'll see us in 2030 for Avatar 3.
I really hope there are more movies like this, to be honest with you. Although, like, it was really hard to watch a lot of the scenes. A lot of the scenes I had to turn away from. At the end of it, I really vibe with the message.
I just relish getting a movie like this. It's kind of like a dying breed, this mega blockbuster with a vision aren't being made anymore, really. Like, James Cameron is sort of an anomaly.
Can't wait to watch it again.
Gonna see it again.
I do want to say that I did think that the older brother had less of a, like, it seemed like he had less importance.
I was getting a sense that he might die because they were putting more emphasis on the younger brother in a sick way. I'm like, this would be good if the older brother dies, then he has to carry that burden, and step up to the plate. But
and then also remember, like, Jake, he was a twin.
Oh yeah.
In the first film, his
died,
brother died, and that he accidentally got, like, basically to where he is, because when his older brother died, they had already made his avatar. They shared the same DNA, so they basically gave him the avatar. I think the older brother dying added a lot of emotion, and at the end, Jake embraced Spider as his adopted son because he sent a son for a son.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching, and let us know what else you want to watch, and let us know what you thought of Avatar: The Way of Water.
Thank you so much. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.